Hi, my name is Brian Baird. I'm the executive sous chef here at the Chateau Lake Louise. I'm here to show you how to make our Swiss fondue that we would make and serve inside of our Walliser Stube restaurant. Fondue is a great sharing platter, especially for families. But at this time during our COVID restrictions, we wish that you would keep this recipe between yourselves, share with your friends and families, but keep it inside your family cohort so that way we respect the social distancing and aspects of what are COVID restrictions that we have right now. So for us, we have a bit of a Canadian twist on it, and I'm going to show you how we make it here. It's a bit of a more modern interpretation and much easier than a lot of recipes you'll find online because of a little tip and technique that I'll show you. So what I have in here is I've got my wine already preheated, ready to go. We use a Mission Hill Canadian wine just from over the mountains in British Columbia. It's a bit of a dry wine, so we want that freshness and crispness in our wine when we make it. So we take about 1.2 liters and we reduce it down to 600 milliliters. Of course, when that's ready, what we do is we take our cheeses. We have Gruyere and Emmenthal. We use a very high-fat cheese for this because you use cheaper cheeses, there's a higher wax content in those things instead of natural fats, and that's not going to give you a really good fondue. And what you'll end up with there is you'll actually end up with fat and lumps of cheese in the bottom of your fondue. So I've got those two cheeses grated and mixed together in our bowl. The trick that I've done is instead of adding the cornstarch at the end, I toss the cornstarch on the cheese. So I've taken about 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, tossed it on the cheese, so when I add it into the pot, as you mix it in, it's going to thicken itself to the correct ratio that you're looking for. And the other thing is, if you like it a little bit thicker, throw in a little more cheese. If you like it a little bit runnier and goopling off of your bread, go ahead and do that as well. So I'm just going to show you now. So what I'm going to do is, I've got my heat on here. Traditionally, when you do another fondue without the cornstarch, you do drop the heat down so you give it a chance to melt. For me, we can go ahead and just keep adding right away. So as we're saying, we're going to slowly start adding our cheese in, just sprinkle it in. And I am going to use a whisk for this. The reason why we use a whisk, of course, we want to get right in there and mix it extremely well. A spoon could end up with dragging it across the bottom and not really incorporating it quite well. So because the cornstarch, you can see the cheeses are already starting to thicken from the heat from our wine. So I'm not adding all of my cheese. The reason being is right now it might be enough cheese and cornstarch for our ratio, because of how thick you want your fondue. So for me, you can see now it's coming back to a boil and it's starting to thicken. But that's not really thick enough for fondue, so I'm just going to throw in the rest of our cheese. And again, make it to the consistency you like at home. Normally when you make fondue, you'll notice that the wine and cheese will be separated. You want to take it off the heat, add more cornstarch. But this way, it's much easier to make and control. As you can see, it's at the perfect consistency you want right now. Okay? So I'm just going to move that over to our burner. And this is when you can customize your fondue. So I've got it at a nice consistency. You can add garlic, truffles, whatever you want to do to make the customized fondue. This one here is a little bit more modern interpretation with the cheese technique that we use. So we have confit of shallots, and we also have morel mushrooms. So again, make this however you want. If you want to use truffle, if you have a vegetarian in your life, and they don't drink alcohol, use a vegetarian stock, reduce that down, intensify the flavor. Same technique. So, and then we would mix this in, leave a bit of the mushroom and that on top so you get that nice texture and people can see it, so you're nice and generous when it gets to the table. When we serve this, we'll serve it with our traditional toppings. We'll use breads, pickles, pickled onions, charcuterie, lots of different meats, broccoli, potatoes. But again, if you're making this at home with your family, make and do whatever you want. My kids just love bread, and actually they prefer brioche. They're a little bit spoiled that way. So, but make it your own, and that's how we make our fondue here at the Chateau Lake Louise.